Hey everybody, welcome back to Your Free TV. It is Monday, October 27th, 2025. I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act of reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. All right, I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. And I always start by saying thank you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. You make it happen, and I so appreciate you. And I want to remind people, please like, subscribe, share. The shadow banning here is massive, and I'm not so good at plugging for my own channel as much as I do for my wonderful sponsor. But basically, I really need you to hit that like, hit the subscribe, because if we can overwhelm a little bit of the shadow banning, it really helps a lot. So thanks so much. And I'll jump in with the news. Of course, Trump is in Asia right now. And as I said in my last video, we have the situation of Three-Eye Atlas careening towards its perihelion, or whatever it's called, when it comes closest to the Earth. Strange to have government shut down, NASA shut down, everything shut down. But the very bizarre thing of having, was it Timothy Mellon, who is major in the disinformation, secret space program stuff to push the wrong narrative, is the donor who actually gave $130 million to the Trump administration to supposedly pay the Pentagon, right, to pay the troops. $130 million, that would be like $100 per soldier. But any who's what's, very interesting that we get that connection, that it's the Mellons that gave $130 million to the administration while this shutdown is happening, and whatever's going on with Three-Eye Atlas and Mellon being so massively involved in all of this cover-up disinformation around the U.S., the UFO files, the secrecy behind what Daniel List would call X-Protect, and the breakaway technology, all of it. So I wanted to mention that. And then Trump has said now that he is thinking of extending his trip because otherwise he would have been arriving back really close to this whole thing going on in our atmosphere, and not in our atmosphere, but out there in space, close to us. And the reason he's giving for possible extension of his Asian trip, which has been wildly successful, and hopefully the thumbnail of him, dancing in Kuala Lumpur with the traditional dancers there, welcoming him to Malaysia. Incredible things going on that he's getting accomplished during this trip. So not to take away from that at all. But of course, if something were to happen and he was out of the country, we get continuity of government here, COG, and it goes to Northcom, it goes to General Geo, who ran the drone swarm situation. We're seeing the same thing happening in Denmark right now. We're hoping it's not like, some kind of Mossad assassination attempt on the prime minister there, who's trying to stop the Euroclear capture of the Russian assets of $350 billion, who already, there was a terrorist plot against her that happened last week that they supposedly stopped. And of course, we had Viktor Orban coming out and stopping, in his vote in the EU, stopping the liquidation of the assets to be stolen by Europe, to basically use the $350 billion to supposedly fund Ukraine to fight against Russia. And Russia made some incredible demonstrations today about their nuclear missiles that are unstoppable. I'll be getting to that in this video. Quite something. And I guess I'll just say it now. They keep saying, oh, you watch like any of the mainstream news outlets, and they all come up saying, oh, look at Russia there in Ukraine. They're tanks. They're barely held together. They're from like 40 years ago, 60 years ago. They're just, Russia has nothing. They have, and all the while, Putin's been very clear. This is a war of attrition. This is a meat grinder. We're not sending in our best, okay, when it comes to ground war in Ukraine. We're just maintaining and we're continuing to keep the presence going. And so it's all very interesting. So back to continuity of government, if something were to happen while the president is out of the United States, or even if not, you get this continuity of government plan that comes into action out of Northcom in Colorado, and you get General Gio in charge, putting in these governors over the 10 regions that are basically the FEMA regions to rule through martial law. So that's not a big scare thing. It's just interesting. The shutdown, the Three Eye Atlas, the NASA shutdown, the Mellon money, it's all very interesting. So we're going to jump into a lot more than that. Of course, we have the major elections really rolling right now with early voting in New Jersey, New York, and Virginia. We'll be getting into that. We want to pray for the people of Jamaica, okay? Because suddenly, there is a Cat 5 hurricane that just is going to go full bore across Jamaica. And that's horrible. So we pray for the people. We know how these weather weapons work. This could be total desolation for Jamaica. So please pray for the people of Jamaica. And it's just also coinky dinky because you get, Winsome Earl Sears, who is Jamaican born and through her military service became a naturalized citizen, running against CIA Spanberger, right, in Virginia, who she never talked to a person who decided they all decided to change their votes once she opens her mouth. Winsome Earl Sears, being the lieutenant governor right now under Youngkin, they're super tying up the legislative process, and also they're holding a special legislation for redistricting, which is important. But they're doing this. Everything's happening right here at the last week of her campaign, preventing her from getting out and talking to voters, etc., in Virginia, running for governor against Spanberger. And like Mikey Sherrill, Spanberger is a highly unlikable person. And so, you get a full Cat 5 hurricane in the country of origin, where I'm sure she has lots of family, and then tying up her schedule so that she can't speak in Virginia to her possible constituents and her constituents as lieutenant governor. So all very interesting stuff that's going on. We're going to get into all of it. And so I'm going to put on the glasses and we will jump in here with more. Of course, with that Denmark drone swarm, they're trying to blame Russia for it, right? Just like they're trying to blame, the incursions over Lithuania. And there's no proof these are Russian drones whatsoever. It is just an ongoing push for this $350 billion that Europe needs so much. But as this all goes down, we see that Russia comes out and is like, well, let's just show you what we got. And this is all happening while, of course, the talks between Russia and President Trump, between Putin and Trump, the meetup is still on the table and still coming. But there was a lot of sort of misdirection on that because of all of this, because of the Zelensky visit, the $350 billion, all of it, the refusal to send the Tomahawks to Ukraine, etc. And especially because the involvement of it would require the U.S. Being the one handing over all of the satellite located target information, all of the guiding of the Tomahawks, etc. And so while we look, we get today coming. Oh, and also what I was going to say is that you get Dmitriev, right, who's been posting these Q-like things about the Russia-U.S. connection and China, as we're seeing, Bessent coming out and saying China has really given us a new, since they got rid of the head negotiators of the trade deals with China, they're seeing the carving out of what they think is going to be a viable trade agreement with China by the time Trump meets him. It'll be Thursday in China, Wednesday here, Wednesday morning, and of course then Trump saying, "Oh, I might stay longer and meet with Kim Jong-un," in North Korea, not in North Korea, but of North Korea. So very interesting stuff. But what we're hearing there is some major, they're going to sign the TikTok deal, which seems to be totally hashed out, which, yikes, as far as the people in charge of TikTok now, with that massive Israeli power bias that's going to come down there. But that deal is going to be happening on Thursday and be signed. So there's just a lot going down. But let's look at what happened here with the and so Dmitriev, Dmitriev, the special envoy to the U.S. out of Russia, right, who's been like doing these Q drop type deals. He, of course, was meant to also be meeting with Anna Paulina Luna, who keeps coming out talking about how, this Ukraine war is awful and ridiculous. That, she has been part of this releasing of all the JFK documents. And part of one thing that came out of the JFK documents was that JFK had also proposed and wanted to do this land, well, not, excuse me, this tunnel bridge, okay, from the U.S. across the Bering Strait, small part over to Russia to create trade and a pact with Russia. And she has been said that she had said and released that she's meeting with Dmitriev later this month. And then it gets leaked or whatever, coming out that Dmitriev was in Miami over the weekend meeting with Steve Witkoff, okay, to hammer out more about what's going to happen with the end of the Ukraine war and the peace deal coming up. So that's huge news. That is huge. And then we get this, and of course, Trump puts out this stark warning, as he always does, and this sort of misdirection that he does for people to think that, he's whatever, just continuing to go through this NATO process with what's his name, the NATO ambassador Whitaker, who's just saying we have to, get those Slovakians, stop buying that Russian oil, right? All of this kind of stuff. But these new missiles that were put out by that came out of Russia, of this major test that they did on these Burevestnik missiles, these Burevestnik missiles, okay? These are very interesting, and Defense Minister Yerasimov basically are claiming they can strike anywhere on the planet and have 100% accuracy. They're super agile and totally stealth. And the reason is that these are nuclear thrust-powered missiles that basically can be launched and stay in the atmosphere for months, okay, because they are nuclear powered. They have nuclear thrust within them, and they can go, the test that they did, but they can likely go anywhere, was about 8,000 miles, okay, basically hitting anywhere, hitting the US or whatever. And that they're nuclear thrust powered. They can bypass all air defense systems. And this test that they showed that they can go 8,000 miles, they travel 1,000 kilometer per hour. And they, yeah, that sounds kind of slow. Sorry, I'm talking to myself here for a second. But anyway, they basically have this nuclear turbine attached to them that can keep them airborne. And so basically, they can be up there in the atmosphere and then just wait for a target command. They can be launched to then be programmed later for the command of where they're supposed to strike. So very huge and impressive to see this weaponry being shown to the world by Russia today, not by accident. Basically to say, no, we're not operating out of 60-year-old tanks like you're seeing on the front lines in Ukraine. We have the top-notch, basically unparalleled nuclear-powered missiles that are cruise missiles that can defy any air defense system across the planet. So pretty huge deal, pretty major stuff. So we're going to keep Following that, as we go, while we watch what came out of the Dmitriev-Witkoff meeting over the weekend and everything coming down. There's so much going on at once. But I did want to mention this before I delve into some other deep stuff, is we have, of course, the French really enraged and major, huge things going down in France with the people, of course, as we're seeing the continued judicial, rigged judiciary, just like in the USA and everywhere else in the world controlled by the globalists, where we had former President Sarkozy imprisoned for 5 years in France, and now he's in prison. And this was a really huge deal because he was a right-wing president back in 2007. The claims against him was that he received millions of dollars from Muammar Gaddafi, right, out of Libya to promote his campaign. And this is all a very interesting thing. He has claimed his innocence all throughout. The French people are claiming this is a, um, uh, massive, basically attack on a former president without real proof to show that it happened. And I'm not going to pretend that I know the ins and outs of all of this, but I think it's interesting that it's really ignited and enraged the people of France to watch this man being put behind bars. This criminal conspiracy is what they got him on. And it's so interesting as we're embarking in the USA under the Trump administration to prove criminal conspiracy that really did happen against Trump, against all of the people that have been fighting against the deep state. And but what we see here, it's very interesting, this situation of Sarkozy, because his connection with Gaddafi and the agreement was that, not the agreement, I'm not putting this into solid whatever, I'm just saying that Gaddafi had been working with the West so diligently to say, hey, you want me here in Libya because if I am gone, I'm literally the gate holding back the hordes of massive migration into Europe. That the push is here, that it's being constantly the deal. And Gaddafi didn't want the Federal Reserve coming in and having a central bank in Libya. He wanted to resist that, have gold be the backing of Libya. He had, a sovereign wealth fund for the people. He had his green book where he was talking about tapping into deep deep, basically the deep water aquifers that exist on Earth with the purest water, so that he could have all of his people have complete access to water. He also was massively fighting, of course, with the cabals of the West that wanted to take him down and open the floodgates of the migration into Europe. And what do we have now in Libya? Open slave markets, just complete. Um, the floodgates happened, and we have the mayhem we have now of the Islamist Red-Green Alliance and the massive destruction against the West. And of course, we get HRC, right, with her "we came, we saw, he died" situation, and we get so much more besides. All right, there's so much more of that I don't have time to get into. And let's not forget also that Claire Bronfman, who recently got out of prison, we had this whole situation of the Bronfmans connected to Hillary Clinton and the attempt. They had their own island in the Pacific, connected to Nexium, Keith Raniere still paying his legal bills, all of this. And Bronfman Sr. goes way back with the Rodhams, like way back to the bootlegging days, the crime families out of Chicago. And what we get with Bronfman, he was head of the American Jewish Congress. There was all of this information that came out for entertainment purposes only, connecting him with Hillary Clinton and let's just say, the stealing for entertainment purposes only of massive amounts of assets that were being recovered from the Jewish families that were destroyed during World War II. And and then we get the Bronfmans and their connection with Nexium and all of this. But the point why I'm bringing that up is that you had this attempt to get one of the daughters, was it Claire or the other one? I can't remember, Sarah or Claire, but they were married to a guy who was not from the USA. Was he? I think he was like from one of those French African related, former colonies, where they tried to install him as in a color revolution type deal as president of Libya. It's like, these people, right? This is what they do with their time. Just gonna overthrow for the globalists to set off massive disruption of the West and the killing of especially Christian Western civilization. Okay, the takedown, the massive assault on Christians by the what is the Islamist uh, assault, their jihad, their caliphate, their desire and need to defeat Christianity. So very interesting as Trump is turning away from that, turning away from the teist, as he said so clearly last time he was over in the Middle East, and he said, we are no longer doing this teist thing of, that we're just going to regime change for that teism isn't going to be allowed to dictate foreign policy anymore. It's just going to be dealt with, and that's what he's about to be doing here in Venezuela, which is huge, and we'll be getting into that as well. But that's not going to happen anymore. We're not going to be just diddling around with this regime change stuff having to do with Islamists, that they created this whole scenario. This is ending, and this Islamism as caliphate expansion used by the globalists is not what we're doing anymore. And so it's very interesting and exciting to see all of that. And so I'm going to, I do want to mention here, I'm gonna jump in here to, I do want to get into, Candace Owens got back up today, and I do want to talk about a short synopsis of what she had to say, because she's been gone for, close to 2 weeks or so, and well, less than 2 weeks in Wyoming for some time off to sort of gather herself. And I do want to talk about what she had to say today, so I'll do that in a moment. But I did want to mention this because it got little to no press, and I don't have much information about it, but I would love if people could put in the links below any information or access to videos you have of people breaking this down. But State Senator Darren Bailey, okay, who ran against Pritzker back in 22 for governor of Illinois on the GOP ticket, and is planning to run for GOP for the GOP governor race against Pritzker coming up. He had his family, basically 4 members of his family died in a helicopter crash in Montana, outside of Ekalaka, Montana. His son Zachary, Zachary's wife, so his daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren all died in this helicopter crash. And Zachary was a very seasoned helicopter pilot, been doing this for a long time. He was there going to basically to look to, I guess, purchase a couple more helicopters for their farming enterprise that they have. That makes me think of like cattle ranching, where they use the helicopters to basically help with the herding. And so this goes down, and he's just dead, right? He's dead, grandchildren dead, please pray for them. It's very awful. And it's very interesting to have Darren Bailey's life attacked this way. And of course, Pritzker, who keeps, hinting about this 2028 run. I mean, so far, it's so ridiculous what they have. And so prayers on that and for Darren Bailey's family. And it's so ridiculous about the Dems who they keep putting up. Oh, and on mainstream news, they're still, oh, Kamala might run again. I mean, that's just a herring. That's just a gray herring, green herring, red herring, a red one. It's a red herring. Yeah, that would be ridiculous. And of course, they know that Newsom can't carry it. They're jumbled all around the place, right? Just like AIPAC trying to put in Ted Cruz for the GOP nomination. And it's all very interesting to watch. I think it'll be someone very different for the Dems as we move into what is now this I'm just going to call it an FF. It's a this false flag operation of the Democrats to shut down the government, to start this massive snap, the EBT cards failing for 46 million Americans relying on food stamps next week, and aggravating that whole base, to set off riots and set off whatever it is that they've put in place for that to happen. The whispers are that we're not going to get the government open before Thanksgiving, and huge plans for riots and mass robbing of Walmarts and other big box stores by mobs. Okay, coming up starting November 3rd, even before the EBT runs out. I can just preempt that, right, with some mass riots and robbing. So it's very interesting to watch, but I think people that come on my radar for Dems 2025, I keep wondering about Maura Healey out of Massachusetts. As that's just one name I'm going to throw out. I'm kind of watching around who could it be, and they need somebody who's going to stabilize the party, even though we know this Mamdani thing is about to kick off in New York City. And so we've got the situation of Mamdani, right? Early voting has started, huge amounts of early voting already coming in New York City, right? And we get absolute, this awful notion of people being told, Republicans being told to vote for Cuomo, who literally had to step down from his governor role because he was accused of mass murder and for entertainment purposes only, guilty. And so we get this push to get Republicans to vote for this disgusting person, and that's disgusting. Versus Sliwa, who's on the Republican ticket, polling only at like 14%, because of this constant push. And I just pray that there'll be some massive surprise of people coming out full force for Sliwa here at the end zone, because it is a really disturbing, disgusting thing to watch this Mamdani phenomenon. MB Dami is what I call him, Muslim Brotherhood Dami, because he's a Ugandan who only got his citizenship six years ago because he had to, so he could play this role. He's the Obama new improved and massively Muslim Brotherhood, okay, for entertainment purposes only. And so watching that all roll out, it's going to be very interesting to see when we could actually have a person like Sliwa, who literally got his jaw broken when he was like defending businesses during the Summer of Love with BLM riots in New York, and of course his guardian angels, all of it. And yes, he's not the most experienced either, but I'd take him over somebody. Yeah, it's obvious. Okay, so we're praying for Sliwa for a miracle Hail Mary here, and please get involved and be part of that. And so, of course, we also have chasenj.org, chasenj.org. You can get involved to be part of the calling, part of the door knocking. Very, very tight race there with Mikey Sherrill and of course Chitterelli. And I think that I really think Chitterelli can win this. We needs all of us to get involved there in New Jersey. chasenj.org. You don't have to be from New Jersey to make those phone calls. You can take action. You can really help. We need all the help we can get. And so please do get involved. Okay, and so I think I might cover here now. Yeah, I think I might cover here now. I might cover this first, and I might end up here with what Candace Owens had to say today, coming back to her online presence. But I wanted to just really mention this situation also coming up with this November 3rd, which they say will be the big riot day. Well, a huge situation here is about this Supreme Court determination on tariffs, okay, and Trump's tariffs, and how he's, already going to have $20 trillion coming into the U.S. in investments, so much of it relying on tariffs, so much of his peace plans, his peace, that he's been able to secure by using tariff threats against these countries who are fighting with each other, basically saying, hey, be at peace, do good economy, thrive, and stop fighting. And also for us at home, for the economy to survive here, it is so imperative that those tariffs go through. And so Trump has said he's actually going to be there to attend this Supreme Court hearing because he wants his presence there. And I would say, yes, people should show up outside the Supreme Court. Don't get all Fedsurrection, but, basically, it's really good for people's presence. I think that MAGA is doing great with, finally they took down the Antifa encampment in Portland because MAGA people showed up, right? It finally got the Portland PD to take action, which is amazing. But what I'm saying here with Supreme Court in DC is showing up with support, very peaceful, very excited. Thank you, Trump, for saving the economy. This kind of thing is so vital because if the Supreme Court decides that the tariffs are illegal, which is total BS, okay, like they're not illegal. They've been used many throughout the history of the USA and meant to do so to secure that the USA fights fire with fire, that we tariff anyone who tariffs us. That's the way it goes. And that this is economic negotiation. And, I was always, when I was younger and I would travel and I would see different things like, oh, gosh, why is it so expensive here with this or that thing with the, I want to send mail to somebody in England or somebody over here in Europe or whatever. And it would just be like, oh, well, we have to pay all these VAT taxes and tariffs and things, and everything costs a gazillion dollars because they were tariffing, the USA. And finally, okay, we have a president coming back and saying, no, we're going to tariff you back, and we're going to use this as leverage to save our economy finally as we hit $38 trillion in debt. And so compare that to $20 trillion coming in. Compare the loss of that, okay? The loss of the tariff money is essential that we have it. And I believe that this is part of the plan of, we call it the Podesta plan, the anti-Trump plan of the Democrats, shutting down the government, false flagging their own people, which is a just telltale, common, constant thing that that Marxist, socialist, communist, fascists use against their people in order to create a riot that may or may not be true because of this paid to play situation of Soros et al., like Soros who's funded Mondami. But basically to get people to go and loot and rob stores, etc., and to harm them, okay? And the people know that's the Democrats that are keeping the government shut down. So it's all very interesting. That combined with this tariff situation is, I think, the Democrats' plan to implode the economy and to make Trump seem reckless and make him seem, he's criminally reckless, and he's a criminal anyway, by the way, and et cetera, et cetera. Basically, to try to make Trump out to having destroyed the economy that was already massively destroyed. And so I'm just going to say, pray about this terror situation. And 202-224-3121 for the Senate. 202-225-3121 for the House. All your calls, all your action, I know it's not going to affect the Supreme Court, but you want everyone to know that this tariff decision is imperative for the survival of the American economy, because shutting down the tariffs, it will wreck the economy. And it's so massive. We have Scott Bessent doing an incredible job here with working out this new trade deal with China. We have the changes happening in Xi's regime, forcing all of these changes to happen. We have the new Japanese prime minister who is basically MAGA. She's very much right-wing, and first female prime minister in Japanese history. and doing incredible work there. Trump just signed this incredible trade deal with the ASEAN coalition. Just so much happening that is fantastic. And the plan here, I believe, is to try to derail it with the Supreme Court. So this is what we need. we need prayers. Okay, we need God's backing on this tariffs decision, and I'm not afraid to ask for it. So yeah, just going to say that. All right, and so I'm going to end here with I believe this situation of Candace Owens. I do want to cover this, and people get angry at me on this channel, like, shut up, don't talk about Charlie Kirk, don't talk about his murder or not murder, his white hat, black hat, etc. All this, and I just want to remind people this isn't a Q channel, and it's not white hat channel. It is a channel about the truth, and I desire to cover what resonates as the truth for me, and not only, I'm not like other shows where they don't talk about stuff because they don't want to, have your opinion change one way or another. And, my pastor was talking over the weekend, talking about betrayal and how the harms of betrayal are some of the deepest, right? We can't stand it when we're betrayed. The devil's function in that, okay, is to eat away at us with isolation and distrust. That who can I trust if I can't trust anybody? Well, you can trust in God. You can trust in God, and that's what's so important. Okay, that is what comes with the not taking on the offenses of others, right? It also comes with forgiveness, and it comes with clear thinking through being centered in God. And so this fear of betrayal, that if there's a white hat operation that, Charlie Kirk is Valhalla'd out or whatever, that doesn't mean we can't talk about the incredible stuff that Candace Owens is doing to show the massive holes in the kind of ridiculous scenario. We have Tyler Robinson, of course, in court today. No, not right. They're doing this huge decision. It's taking forever if he can be allowed to wear civilian clothes in court. So he's not presumed guilty because he's wearing an orange jumpsuit. I mean, but the court hearing today was just him as a disembodied voice with his face not there via Zoom call. So where's Tyler Robinson, right? And the whole scenario is just bogus and completely ridiculous. And so I must, go where truth is, glaring from. And so I was really excited and glad to see Candace Owens back from her time in Wyoming, where she had traveled with Charlie before. And she basically just, she had put out a tweet a few days ago and said, don't worry about the gag order. I plan to violate it for the benefit of the world. The info I've gotten in the last week will burn the house down. And so very interesting. It wasn't an exact quote what I just said. I don't have it in front of me. But basically, she's just, talking about how, in her understanding and from her direct communications with Charlie and from dreams that she's had since his death, that she feels Charlie was betrayed and wants to talk about it massively and to create a list of clues, to create a list of evidence. And so basically what she was focused on today was this fellow named Mikey McCoy. And he was the guy who operated that camera that was behind Charlie Kirk at UVU, the one that we all saw taken down. She said it was taken down within 4 minutes after the shooting, that Mikey McCoy was up there taking down, and again, for entertainment purposes only, taking down the camera, okay, HD footage behind Charlie Kirk. And we're all like, where's the footage? You have Candace Owens asking for it. I know George Webb asked for it. No forthcoming, even though this guy, Mikey McCoy, according to Candace Owens, owns all that footage. And he runs the AV company that was doing that footage. And so I want to share what she said from her direct communications she recorded with him early on after the shooting. And you have basically him in these recordings refusing to share the footage, basically saying that it was first claiming that he doesn't know how to send the footage as the head of a really sophisticated audiovisual company. And then he said he didn't want to be hacked by Google with his sensitive information, this kind of thing, which is ridiculous that, of course, you can send footage in a way that can't be hacked. But also, basically, he said that there were people, for the first time ever of a TPUSA event, that there was the request from Arizona to be doing operations back in Arizona in real time, that Charlie Kirk wanted this for the first time ever in order to rapidly collect clips from the event to be immediately put up on social media. And it's like, well, then this was a pretty important news event. I'll immediately put those clips up. But anyhow, this is the situation that she was calling out about Mikey McCoy, and it is very, very interesting to watch all of this. It's leading to more and more people involved in whatever went down there. And so, what Candace Owens had to say about her specific dream that she'd had, and she also talked about Charlie's private messages with her, and she shared, they're public knowledge now. Basically, she's saying that, and she's going to be revealing more, saying that Charlie Kirk said many things that she believes are almost prophecy from what he was talking about before he was killed. But basically, that he had said, I don't think I'm going to, it's very likely I won't survive this TPUSA situation. And that he had talked with her about, I may not be able to finish this revolution. I dream about it all the time. And basically saying you might need to be the David in this movement to carry it out to get to the finish line. And so, very interesting things. You know, it is very important to share it, I believe, and to have people understand that telling the truth doesn't make you betrayer of the white hat plan. Okay, it is important that we share the truth, and to live in fear of recrimination or whatever. You have to decide. Okay, for me on this channel, I had to decide long ago, like back in the day where before all the shadow banning and before I got deplatformed and everything taken away, there was people trying to recruit me for this or that, do whatever, and you just say no, right? And just like, no, I just want to do the truth. It's a simple thing here, and I've stuck to that ever since. And it's been good, for moral uh, my own moral center. And if I was in a different position, I can see I'm not the president of the United States, okay, who has to to basically send people misdirection stuff when he's dealing with huge globalist cabal that's trying to destroy our entire country. All I have to do here is just say the truth, that I know it as it goes along. And so I wanted to share that with you. And as the people go to loot at Walmart on November 3rd, there's a video I saw. And so that, I'll wind that up about Candace. We'll keep showing or reporting on what she's coming with. But November 3rd, there's some planned Walmart raid to do with the pre-shutdown of the SNAP privileges that are given to people who need food stamps. Flash mob robbing event supposedly to break out on November 3rd. And as the Democratic Party just, keep creating this doom loop for itself, that you have to think there's a larger plan here. And I think it's the attempt to try to wreck the economy, which is why the Supreme Court decision on what's coming with the tariffs is so important. But one win is that Walmart has said that it won't be hiring any more HB1 visas because there's not enough people in the US who need jobs at Walmart. Walmart was massively bringing in foreigners who aren't US citizens, obviously, on these HB1 visas to work at Walmart. And of course, they had to define some special skills they had, right? But Trump said, hey, you want an HB1 visa for somebody to work in the US, you're gonna have to pay $100,000 per pop. Okay, there's a fee now, it's $100,000. So if you need these HB1 people so bad, pay $100,000, and they're so special, cool. And Walmart said, yeah, we don't need them anymore, it turns out. So Walmart's not going to flip that bill. And so very interesting there. And I think the last thing I will leave us with before we move on here, excuse me, before I end this video, tomorrow I'll be back with more. But the situation of, Arctic frost, building, and people are worried, like, is there going to be a John Brennan thing, indictments, etc. Well, it's coming out more and more to light, some of the new information, and again, forbidden.news, she's fantastic over there, always reposts great stuff and has great analysis, but she brought out a little tidbit which is fantastic, and um, this has to do with John Brennan owning 50% of the building in Serbia where the servers were located, okay, for the 2020 election steal. Okay, so as we're watching these Smartmatic charges coming out, this has everything to do with Venezuela. I'm gonna have to save Venezuela for tomorrow, okay? But they moved the servers from Venezuela, okay, to where, and remember, 70 countries have been overthrown by the deep state, CIA, MI6, Mossad, all of them, for this globalist regime. It's why you had Netanyahu congratulate Biden first after the election steal, right? Because they stole it. And what we get here with John Brennan is in Serbia, where these servers, where they were moved to from Venezuela in 2018, building up to this election they were going to steal, he owned half the building. He was 50% owner. Okay, this is Islamist John Brennan with his half dual citizenship with Ireland, and Ireland's on fire right now. They're now going for, let's go for full reunification. We want Northern and Southern Ireland to reunite. Who can stop us, basically? When nobody can. Nobody could really stop them. Fantastic. But Brennan, don't let him back in there. Brennan is really under the massive microscope, and so we're going to 100% be focused on that, and also, and I will link it below, what she talked about, and I saw the Patrick Byrne interview that I had seen it, a few days before, where she was referring to this, the fantastic woman over at forbidden.news, but basically that their success test after the move from Venezuela to Serbia of the machines was the Cyril Ramaphosa election steal in South Africa, okay, to get him back, to get him in power in order to allow this kind of white genocide, total uh, uh, color revolution, South Africa style, right? Full mayhem against whitey and destroy all of the infrastructure of South Africa with his Agenda 2030 rules, the destruction of the infrastructure, taking all the people who knew how to do the jobs out because of their skin color, putting in people who don't know what they're doing, based on race only. Sounds familiar. And so very interesting that this is all coming out, and it is very exciting. Okay, and so we did have Milei win the election in Argentina, massive landslide. People are super, pissed off, including MTG, who I love, and is fantastic. But this $40 billion bailout of Argentina, when we are so suffering here, and this is a pivot with this hemispheric defense. Okay, Milei won. Trump clearly came and said, if Milei doesn't win, you're not getting any money. I'm not gonna. This isn't based on some humanitarian aid. This is based on building Argentina to partner with the USA for rare earth minerals and everything needed for America to gain its footing and have a partner it can rely on. So, that's what happened. Milei won. And of course, now we've got the different thing of them of Trump threatening to put in 4 times the amount of Argentinian beef into this country, and the ranchers here being really pissed off about it. And the thing to be really pissed off about really is the meat packers. It's the couple of globalist industries that own the meat packing and literally control the pricing. So that's all for another day. Can't really dive into that hole right now, but it is important to understand the sort of the backing behind it. what's going on behind the scenes there. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. Thanks so much for watching. Really, let's pray for Jamaica and the people of Jamaica against this, I'm sure, weather engineered uh, uh, Cat 5 hurricane direct hit on them. It's disgusting and awful. And we pray that God interrupt this and dissipate their weapons, and stop the harm. And we pray for the people of Jamaica. And of course, I will thank you for watching. And if you found something added value in this video and you want to support the channel, I so appreciate it. There's ways to do so below. And monthly support is awesome, so fantastic. But any way you help is so great. And news tips as well. Please get them down there. And so I also, of course, need to mention my fantastic sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. Or you can, if you donate to the channel, you get 15% off with a different link and code sent to you. This is, I can only say this for entertainment purposes only, but in all of the research that's done, it is this same ESS60 molecule made at the most advanced lab in the world in Houston, Texas, out of this reactor that simulates the action of the sun, okay, to create these fullerenes and then purifies them to the nth degree, the purest that is possible, to be used in the scientific studies that choose these people to do it. It fights inflammation on the most basic level. It gets into your mitochondria, into all your cells, capturing the garbage to be taken out, okay, with your hormones, your glutathione, melatonin. So it's great. It's great for cellular healing, and cellular health is health. So all the degenerative diseases depend on compromised cells. All of the jabs, the crap, the toxins, the chemtrails, all of it. It is designed to go in there and flush out your cellular system. It goes through the blood-brain barrier into your neurons, cleaning out your brain, all of it. It's just an amazing product, and people have been doing amazing testimonials about migraines, how it fights migraines. There's new research coming out that's sponsored by C60 Evo, doing the tests themselves, funding the research that will be coming out soon to do with migraines. But yeah, they get praise. If you read the testimonial, c60evo.com/YAFTV, code YFTV for 10% off. You'll see people, testimonies about cancer, MS, autism, across the board, how incredible this product is. So give it a check out. And thanks so much for supporting You Are Free TV and the sponsor that supports me. I give away 2 bottles of this in a random selection for people who support the channel every month, randomly selected. It's one of my favorite things to do. And you get entered into that giveaway whenever you support the channel. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. I so appreciate you. We're really on this marathon, and it's incredible. So use your prayers, your armor of God. Just get right with your soul, and just really, really be that spiritual warrior that we all need. And even J.D. Vance, interestingly, Trump did come out and say on the plane, skirting through Asia, when he asked if he was going to run for 2028, he basically was pushing for Vance, Rubio. We know he's really focused on who the next 2 presidents are going to be able to carry out this MAGA mission, this America First mission. So let's just pray. But J.D. Vance did say a great thing the other day when he was in Israel, which was that we need the Prince of Peace to be looking over all of this, what's going on in the Middle East, the Prince of Peace to look over everything as we fight for the survival of humanity, but especially the survival of the Christian West, and that being the #1 target of the globalist elite cabal. So we're going to do it. Prayers are paramount. I'll see you tomorrow. You are free.